Okay, let me just get the tour.
Worse things. Right here.
Okay, good afternoon. This is the Town of New Canaan Audit Subcommittee meeting, Monday, March 23rd, 2026. We have the full attendance from the subcommittee, therefore I deem this meeting to be open. And we've really got two principal items on the agenda, and we're also joined here by Ann Killians, who is the Chief Financial Officer of the town. So we're looking forward to constructive discussion with Ann. And I think one of the key things we want to talk about is, sort of next steps and how can we collaborate to assist both the town and to getting to a place where the finance team wants to be at. So with that, I guess I'm going to turn it over to Ann, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's all you did the board that. Do you
want to do everything?
Yeah.
And maybe you could say what your timing is in terms of if you're going to implement them, and also if you need some assistance from CLA at this sort of point by point, you can.
That's the key, because I think if we can tell, because what we want to do is, and I know there are a couple areas that I think we might want to have their support on updating some of the policies. It'd be good to say, hey, this is from your perspective, this is like on us to do, so let's prioritize that and get CLA to help. So
okay.
And you would not have the time now, right? So what it can be a little bit of a working process, but let's talk about it at least.
Sure. Let's see. Well, we'll start with the first one, finding purchasing policies and procedures are not aligned. So we were aware of this in the purchasing policy itself, that there are conflicting language in our current one based on what we have as a chart and what we have as a
table.
On the table.
The table versus the language.
Right. So we were aware of that and we held off changing it until because we knew with the fire audit committee and this one that there was going to be an audit, so we didn't want to change it multiple times. So we're definitely we do need a comprehensive policy. Because there's current things that we don't have uniform guidance. There's things that have to be in there for grant bases and things like that. So we're very aware of that.
Okay.
So there is that.
And so is that something you would want CLA to help you with, or is that something you think you
should we address things as we go through? Or
I think it's always easier to do it.
What I previously done was I reached out to 4 or 5 different towns and got their purchasing policies that were already put together by an auditing firm.
Mm-hmm.
So they've shared that with us. That like one of them is probably this thing that is very comprehensive. So it's actually something Sean and I could go through to say what does it work for New Canaan, because there's complexities in New Canaan, because ultimately that has to get approved by the board of selectmen. All policy procedures go through the board of selectmen. So we have those policies from other towns that we have the benefit of jumping on what they have to bring it down to what we need it to be.
I guess the one question I would have, and that's great, that we've got these other resources, but would it help, having an implementation, just say, here's CLA, here's some of the other companies. I mean, people are, 24/7 on their day jobs, right? So I'm just concerned that that might just take so long. Would you, do you really want to have CLA help out on policy?
They could look at those policies because they're already pre-written. It's just we literally would be going through, take this out. So from a cost effective measure as well, I was thinking that might be a benefit for us to be able to do it and then give it to this committee. But first to take a look at it because it's already been vetted by an auditing firm. And say what does it work for New Canaan and how our policies are, and then give it to this board or the full audit committee, subcommittee to review. And then once you're in agreement with it, it can go in front of the board of selectmen.
Okay.
At that stage.
Okay. Yeah. But I still think it might be good to have like a arms and leg person from CLA just to help out you. So you can try to say this, and make it help with the compendium of what it looks like, I guess.
I mean, if that's something you want to do, but it's already in that format from the other towns who have paid for that service as well. So I just want to try and
we're trying to be cost effective.
Yeah, why do we need to have if can I ask
Sure.
If what is it? Who's the?
we have one from PKF. We have one from the CLA.
That's right. I don't know why it would matter if we do PKF versus CLA. I don't think it matters.
I don't think we have them come in and consult on it, but if you just have a document from them, probably use it, but I don't think you can have kind of consult on it, it's a financial auditors.
No, they will be consulting on the internal audit, from a policy procedure, it's not.
You're just the one that they've already.
Right, they, from other towns.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
anyway,
that's
we
good.
do that a lot with CFOs, if someone has a policy that's already been vetted through their normal legal auditing process, they'll share it or put it up on sites for us to take.
Would it make sense to go through all of that, because I mean, everybody's in favor of saving money, right?
Yeah.
And do all of that, we can look at it,
Yeah.
and then once this thing is kind of done, then maybe a copy goes back to CLA that they can say, you know what, you covered off everything great, or you missed sort of a couple of things, or maybe you might wanna think about this. I mean, is that worth, that may be worth, because they already have the invested knowledge in here as to what our procedures are and what they think they should be. Does it make sense if we do a lot of, you know, you're doing training, does a lot of the groundwork using these other sources, and then once we have a completed document, just have them review it to see that it.
How much do they charge for stuff like that?
We haven't got it.
We haven't got that far, I mean, we have.
I'm gonna say this a different way,
Okay,
very close to what you said,
okay,
or both, and Bill, which is, we're here as advisors. We're not here to write the policies for the town. So there's a big difference from what we can do and finalize it to a point where the town can use those policies. But I agree, I think that what you can do is get the other documents from the town. You and Brian can review them, tailor them to what you believe our town looks like. We can look at it. Okay, but I think as far as a blessing, we need an outside third party to do that.
So I'm asking,
What the cost is?
no, what's the difference between PKF doing that or CLA? I'm asking what the difference is.
it's more, I think the difference would be if we haven't incorporated something that was specific to New Canaan that they found was, you know,
A deficiency.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's right. It's just
But
one time,
wouldn't PKF also have?
that's their
No,
exact
that's
same thing, but maybe that town is different, you know, they have different stuff, I don't know. I mean, until you look at it.
I'm just more into a
Yeah.
process and procedure. When
Yeah.
process and procedure is written, it shouldn't necessarily matter which auditing firm.
Oh,
looks
no,
at the
and I don't,
process
and
procedure.
honestly, you guys own this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right, they would only be giving you advice as to whether,
Right.
you know, you haven't quite improved it to the level that you could, and then it's obviously up to the town to decide.
Okay.
Because you guys have to own this, you.
Right.
So I guess then, I mean, that sounds great, and maybe we don't get an answer now, but okay, so when do you think you would consider having time to compare 5 different town policies and pull the ones that you want and get something to us? And it sounds great, but you know, how do we think about timing on it, I guess?
I've done a lot of the legwork.
Okay.
One of the towns is the biggest, like I said, it's very comprehensive. It's literally narrowing down the things that would work for us,
Okay,
meaning things that don't relate to us.
right.
So that one is pretty big. So I'll come back with timelines. I don't have timelines for the board. I wasn't aware that you
No,
did
that's
timelines today, but I definitely will come back with timelines on that for you. Yeah. The
But you guys are in agreement with that overall kind of.
Yeah, I think we could just have a discussion on it. Good.
Okay. So a lot of them is, you know, formalizing procedures, was exactly what I need on all aspects that we're doing is finance doing that, so that would be, once we get that done, that'd be great. We did have a question where it says, you know, B, where it was, you know, some of purchases made through a single vendor, that's a very difficult process.
This you're on one, sorry, one B?
1B.
Yep.
We did pose this question on how to manage it because it actually goes along with another one further down that says about the use of blanket POs.
Yeah.
Right,
We use blanket POs to try and get on top of how much somebody is spending with the vendor. Because we look at, say, well, you spent 15,000 to date, you've now hit over to 30, it really should be a quote.
Mm-hmm.
So we pose that question, but there's really not an answer of how do we control this. So right now, what we do is we just have a person that looks up every time someone puts in a new request on that vendor. She runs a quick one on that department to look it up because we don't use blanket POs. We have to look up every time they purchase.
There isn't anything in the system that would
We
track that?
did, that was it, that was something we said, could the system do that and it can't to that level. So we're trying to figure out how to do that. We'll implement it, you know, they've made the recommendation of not blanket POs, we'll take that away.
Right.
But the thought process is now we have to sit and monitor every expenditure to admit to see.
Cause I'm sure other towns must have the same.
Well, they do,
Policies,
they will come up with, look what their spend was last year and then put in for it.
Um,
So unless they have, so some will have, so say if you have someone that does smaller jobs, well, by the end of the year, that could be $60,000.
Right.
But they put everything under 9, or it's been 15 and that one goes in front of the Board of Selectmen, or they put 9 and then they put another 2, well, you've hit over the 10.
Right.
So it really should go, and that's what we're monitoring going, you spent 9,
Yep.
yeah,
and that's why we were saying, oh, put a blanket PO, what did you spend last year? And you spent 55, well, you know what, that really should have been a bid.
yes, right.
So that's what we were trying to get to.
And if you did that for this year, you would do the bid and you do everything, and
Right,
everything was kind of.
Yeah,
right.
That was like kind of a discussion, because it's true, some people just like want the individual.
Right.
And it's true, because we do have these vendors that we spend a ton of money on, and it's not, you know, it's on different projects and different, you know, but.
It creeps up. It does creep up pretty quick. So we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, see, and I think, and it ties into, I think, something on maybe points 2 or 3, but the whole use of blanket purchase orders. I think that's one where you did say it'd be good to get some help and assistance on out of it if we want to kind of think about that.
Yes.
If we want to change it, right?
We did, but they're realistically, the suggestion was hire another person to monitor it.
And if you did the blanket purchase order at a higher level, then you're gonna have a higher level of bids, or, you know, the whole
Yeah.
vetting, then. It never is too bad if you have too much vetting for a purchase, it's more when you don't have enough. Right, yeah, so you cover it off that.
And that's what we tried to do at the beginning of the year. We tell them to look at it. So then what happens is they look at it the year before, and in July, when they get the new budget, they will come in front of the Board of Selectmen and go, I need $60,000 for this. And this is where the Board of Selectmen, did you vet? Did you go through the thing? Is it a sole source? Is it, did you bid? And the departments have gotten used to that of going, I know I'm gonna have to explain this, and I have to explain that it's $60,000, and a lot of them now are truly looking at sourced. So if someone else has done the same bid, if there's been a state, federal, anywhere in the state, any other town that has exactly what they're looking for, and that's still an open bid, they can jump on that bid. So they're actually starting to do that, so we can get that done at the beginning of the year.
And where does it, do they actually say they think you should hire another person for that?
It was in the conversations with them.
Reasonable.
Yeah, it was, when we were talking about it going, I said to them, I would love your input on how to address this, because it is, you know, how do we do this?
Right.
And they had mentioned possibly hiring someone else just to look at the POs. I'm like, well, that's what my current AP person is doing to manage it. She was,
Okay.
and she's very good at catching them. So.
And even if you did the larger, like, purchase orders based on last year's stuff, you're still gonna have exceptions to that, so
Yeah.
somebody's gonna track it, but it doesn't need to be a full-time person.
Well, yeah, I
Right,
mean,
that's
and
exactly,
we're-
I don't, and I'm not saying I want another person for that.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to, it's just a different process of how do we get it done.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I need a person, I just don't think that's the right way.
Well, and we're even running into, you know, there's some bids that they can't get multiple bids. They do an RFP and they're not getting more than
Nobody
2.
wants.
They're only getting 1 or 2
Some
people.
one or two.
Even though they can document who picked up the packet and who, you know, they went around and showed the job to, and they're still not coming back with more than 2 bids, which are purchasing,
And quotes
since that's
as well.
great.
Yeah, so, and
You
say
know
how
what I mean? And I'm like, why are we not getting 3? And, you know,
I don't want to digress,
Yeah.
but do you still have a purchasing manager position and you're thinking for?
we do, so, we have some changes in the office, so I just hired a senior accountant, because that position was open, now we're backfilling, we were able to promote within, which I'm very happy about, we have a very skilled CPA person. In the senior accountant position,
Good.
so that position that she filled, or she left, now must be backfilled, so they're the critical ones that I need right now, and then we'll go back out to purchase. Get that agent.
And the one that just left is, what was the position there? The,
Senior accountant.
oh, so that's the one you filled.
That's when I filled
Yeah.
internally
Yeah.
with a promotion, so.
Oh,
pretty
and then the
excited.
person that's,
What was gonna, she was
So when now what
a
is
staff
it?
accountant,
Staff.
staff accountant, yeah. So, great. The draft credit card policy, so the one that was originally used was from our old policy, which we canceled those in November 24. So we kept it in draft form because we wanted to make sure if CLA had changes, we make the changes once and we formalize it. So we're in agreement with that. That one definitely kept in draft.
Wait, so that one now is finalist or?
Well, we're waiting for this to be final and they're okay
Okay.
with that final and then we're good with it. We shared it with them, the draft that we had because we moved to a different program. I mean, the D is, you know, there's areas of just making sure we're following policy. The recommendation was to update the policies in the areas that they talked about, which we need a complete policy.
But did we kind of already cover that?
Yeah, oh, their recommendation, sorry, I was still, okay.
Yep, I got it.
So we had been, I'll just general over this, so we do make when we have policies like the credit card one, we do make them sign it when they take the credit card out, when they were individually doing it. Now, we don't give individual cards, we only have 4 emergency ones out there right now, the rest are shared, it's a shared card kept in finance.
Right.
So they have to sign that every day, so we get the signature as they use it.
Okay.
So that way you'd be able to track if there was a purchase on, like, for example, March 23rd. The person that signed the card on the 23rd would be responsible, because I mean, that was part of their thing, is how do you hold the person accountable? They could say, oh, I didn't do that.
So what we did when we set this new one up, we set it up that when they come to sign it out, we have 3 different types. We have one for recurring, so there's companies that will not, we can't pay by a purchase order. Zooming,
Yeah.
and you know, those type of software ones. So the department comes up when they have to renew it, they will sign for it. They put us the accounting string, right? We want to know the account it's going to there and then, so we can check to make sure they have the money in it. And then they sign it out. When they bring it back, they have to bring it back with the receipt that either the email that they get from the company that says how much, and then we attach the receipt. So now we get the accounting, we know there's money, and we have the receipt when it happens.
And if there was some other charge on that same day with, or something else that you had no knowledge of, you didn't get the receipt back, you can go back to, okay, that's employee A.
Yes, and we ask them to turn that around within a day, to be ours to turn around back within the day.
So there's an accountability back to the person that actually
Yes.
has control.
Oh, yeah. So it's, for us, it's a better process because we can control the purchases up front. Because the prior way of giving it out to people where they have their own card in their own name, we didn't know any of those purchases till the end of the month. And all of a sudden, we're like, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, that was over $1,500, or, you know, because, you know, the easy one is to give a credit card versus put a PO in. So we had put off a couple of cards for those reasons, we weren't getting receipts, it's a month later, they can't find it. We found this is so much more efficient for us, and now it's really reduced what's actually getting charged because they have to come and sign out for it. They have to verify that there's a budget in there before they get it.
So what's the safety feature then that prevents someone who says, okay, I've used the card before, I know what the card number is, I know all the right passcodes. Why do I even have to come to you? Couldn't I just go in and do something with it?
They could, but then we'll know the date of when that card was used or around the time period.
But they could give them back the card and.
They could.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
They didn't
can,
have to get it, come and get it.
they don't. We've actually, in the year and a half we've had the program, we've had only one fraud, and not because someone somehow out in the universe, they got a hold of the card and we canceled it. We got notification. So we have restricted what type of purchases are allowed. So you can't just, you know, we put a purchase where we had some hotels on it.
Right.
They were valid purchases, but we got the call going, we see it's in this type of a hotel, this town, and we're said, no, that's a valid one. So we control that. It would be the similar that if we gave it to a person, they could give it to any staff member to charge for them, who could then take copy of that number and do the same thing. So it's kind of like, we weighed that option of, you know, someone taking the number, but a department head could give it to their staff member who could do the same thing. We were having so much more problems with it as an individual card for accountability, receipts, making sure the records were correct, than what we do now. The charges are restricted, they're less because people have to come and sign it out. We feel we have more control over it.
Does anybody in you or your office get, if there's usage of a card, is there any kind of like tickler, like somebody, oh yeah, you get an email saying, oh, guess what, this card was just used and it's the amount?
Not all the time, no, we get it when it's outside of what we say is our scope of what we've set up, the parameters. We're on a state, we went to the state plan in November, we canceled in November 24. January 25, we went to this, it's a new state plan, because you're meant to also get credits if you use it a certain way. We went to the state plan that has a lot of checks and balances, which we liked going there. Certainly for, like, we got where somebody was trying to buy gas, and we had said gas is not one of the ones because you're meant to get it from the pumps in town. And we got the call on that one, and we said it's valid because we knew in that particular case the pumps were down, so someone needed gas. So we did get that notification, and we let the charge go through.
Okay.
Yeah. So we agreed with all, doing the policy, making sure we have a really comprehensive policy out there, because, emergencies, like I said, uniform guidance, basically all aspects of the purchasing itself, from vendors to purchasing, we agree that we want a comprehensive policy. So we'll go to number 2.
But before we leave that, I
Sure.
just curious, like with and your review and John's views, one of the thoughts they had in looking at the recommendation that basically all employees should sign the acceptance page and sign it saying that I've read the purchasing policy. Right, I'm looking at 1D, yeah. I wasn't sure if you had an opportunity.
Well, that brings up a broader issue that if you're gonna change some of these procedures, manuals, policies, maybe there should be some training or something to make sure your staff understands the new policies and procedures too.
Yes.
So, and just so you know, with all POs, I don't sign any PO unless the senior staff person has signed that PO first. I send it back. If I don't see a senior staff signature on a PO, I won't sign it.
Right.
I mean, it's annoying that it's a constant sending POs back.
But it's a control too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because I'm like, how am I
If you're not
supposed to know?
that.
How am I supposed to know?
Okay, so like say I got the policy, I'm signing it, and it's kind of like the employee manual, right, once a year, the company's got to like certify it.
Yeah.
I promised to uphold the manual.
Yeah, we could do, Ryan, Stacy is our new budget manager and financial systems. His skills are phenomenal with the financial systems and budgeting. He did one over a couple of, like a month of different aspects of this. He wrote manuals for them with the pictures, the hours, everything. He recorded it and he put it out there on the intranet for all employees. So I let Sean know about it if he wants to use it, because it's kind of the same process on how to do a rec, how to do an AP, how to do a budget transfer for it. So he did all these things and we had a great showing on it. And we put all those policies and recommendations out there, or policies and procedures on it. So it's something we could renew with them every year to look at.
Well, and it's
Certainly
when
when
it's
it's
changes, yeah.
Yes, no, once it's changed, we
Yeah.
definitely have to do it because
Yeah.
we're gonna have different forms and things like that. Yeah, no, agreed.
And it's like truly like, if it comes for volume, you put it on lock, right? On
We
your
do, it's
internet.
on the internet, employees can
Yeah,
access all
so,
the time.
and if you update, we updated chapter 4B, you could just like let people know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Number 2 is additional purchase policy components, current but not documented. I'll just go through quickly because there's a lot. Centralized contract management. This was actually something we brought to their attention. We entered into that the board of selectmen was fully supportive of us getting this contract module that we had looked into. Because we have contracts everywhere and everyone has a little piece of it. So we went through it and you'd be hard pressed to find another town or city in Connecticut that's actually using this, because I asked for references when I went for it. Yeah, it's very, very, the upfront setup is very cumbersome. It really is, I'll tell you that, but it is definitely worth it.
This is, I think, the one the board of ed is looking at. too.
Yeah, I mean, we share it. It's
TCM.
very good. Oh, no,
Oh,
TCM is
that's
different.
okay.
TCM, just, TCM is actually really good, and they're going to that. We set up TCM to be able to go to ACH, records management, things like that. But from a contract module, it's a little bit different. So TCM does all their records in keeping a copy of the check, giving the ability for ACH payments. So that's that side. Then the contract, you literally will set up a contract that's 10 years. You'll put the terms in it. You'll say it increases 2% a year. You'll put the biggest one of the best things for this for us was getting retainage at the end of it. Retainage has been so difficult to record at the end of the year. It's manual. And we should not have a manual retainage process on our large contract. So if it says, you hold out 10% on each payment, that's not anywhere in the process. And there are systems to do that, and this contract module does it, and we see it working.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the year, just to give you an idea, for retainage for us, someone puts their purchase order for $500,000 in for a big job. Well, that's the full job. So at the end of the year, when we need to book a retainage, I can't because they've encumbered the full 500. So we have to say, you need to lower your PO by 10% so I can do a journal entry to actually accrue it, then reverse it the next year. So when we found it could do this, we were very excited. And anyone that's related to it, the owner, the new purchasing agent, the department heads can go in and see their contracts, both expenditure and revenue. So if we have where we're renting out a place, we can put it in there. So we've just moved to the, we've been piloting one department in the contracts, and now he's doing the revenue side to test that out with our billing side, because we bill out the rental to try and, so they're not silos, so they integrate. So we're pretty excited about that.
So is the pilot working out okay?
He likes it. I mean, it's not easy. It is not an easy system, so he's kind of manually going through all the contracts, inputting each individual contract, and so there's a lot of back.
Yeah.
And once it's there, then you're just putting in new ones.
Yes, exactly. So, but he's our test person, and he's testing all the,
Okay.
issues with it, so.
But Jen, I'm with you. I thought, we need to probably go back to the school.
I
make
thought
sure
they
that
talked
we're talking
about-
the same line.
It could be that contract, but if it's TCM, that's a different.
I thought he said TCM,
They're bringing that.
because I remember
into-
asking about the TCM for something else, and he said, no,
Yeah.
we have a contract, but we don't.
But they want to make sure they have a place to work, have just having all the.
Expiry dates.
A lot of contracts.
Well, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
because that's what, you think about like the Playhouse list
Yes.
and things like that. I mean, there's escalators.
You don't want that.
there's-
And someone doesn't know,
And it gets you a tickler for insurance and like getting, it kind of prompts you, because when you have 10,000 different contracts, like who needs to update their insurance and who needs to update this, and that should be automated.
Right.
So this is more than just a sort of enhanced repository contracts.
No, yeah,
It's
it
much
would
more
be,
to see, okay, so I wasn't fully aware of that.
yeah,
Because it sounded like what the school was saying, it's such a hassle to go into Munis, and if they have like, oh, here's a big payment.
Yeah.
Somehow that you can load up into Munis, attach it to the invoice, right?
That's TCM.
Right, and that,
That's separate.
but that sounds very labor intensive, and if you just had it somehow tied in with all the contracts, you wouldn't have to be doing that,
Right.
but.
but it's not an easy set, just so you know. It is not like it sounds easy. It's not a super simple setup. So somebody has to, like, we have one person in-house that's sort of the guinea pig of setting all these up and testing it.
Okay, so it's not shift F, no.
No.
We wish.
Yeah.
Maybe AI will get us all there. Upload the contract, put it in the contract module, and maybe that will get there someday.
Vendor performance evaluation. We do have a person who's part-time working on our vendor file. We started about 2 years ago, and they were taking as many as they could at a time, and what we're doing is we look back 3 years. If they're not active in the last 3 years, we're inactivating them. And then she's researching each individual to see when's the last time their W-2 was updated. Their W-9. So March of 24 was the last one, and of course, while we're in the middle of this, the IRS is coming out in January of 2026. It's in draft form, so we don't have to implement it yet. But it's not formalized. Again, it's a policy that needs to be formalized. What we do on if they're changing their ACH, making sure we're up to date on their W-9s. She's been working on that. We're moving her more, as we're filling our positions in finance, we're moving her more back to that process again. And again, doing a purchasing policy will incorporate that whole thing. Conflict of interest disclosure, that was, I think that's it's done every year, but it's asking for this to be basically the recommendations to put it into the purchasing policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
Because a lot of this is just documentation.
Yeah, sustainability and local preference policies. You really can't do anything until you actually have a policy to say you can put in your policy you want to use local vendors and give them 10 points more, then you could do that. So it's getting into that, again, putting it into a policy. Vendor debarment, this is, we need to formalize this. We currently do that. So when we're setting up a new vendor, specifically new vendor, we go onto Concord, we go onto the state site or the state site of where that vendor is incorporated or where they've started. We had someone in Kansas we disbarred because they had passed when she looked them up on, there was a notation on that vendor about having tax problems, so we told the department going, you gotta find another vendor. So we need to formalize that process. It's not formal. We do it, but it's not formal. Segregation of duties and controls. This was a big one when we first started. So we in 2023, I'd say, was the big lift that we set up workflow within Munis.
Right.
Every majority of our processes are manual. So take from a purchasing perspective, someone would email a finance department person and ask them to put in a requisition of X, Y, and Z. And that person would put it in and they get it approved through the process. We changed that, so we originate everything from, we set it all up in Munis, the workflow, that it originates from the department. The department has someone who enters it, the department head approves it. This is all after it's gone through the appropriate, it has to go through the board of selectmen, whether it's on her position or the board itself. They then go through that process, they approve it. Once they approve it, it comes to finance. Finance then makes sure all the documents are in place, and then finance approves it. Same with the when they need to receive against it, the department does that. Again, we put it, it's all through workflow. Budgets, budget transfers were all manual. Everyone would fill out a piece of paper and send it to us, and then finance would do it. Now with workflow through the budget, through the someone enters it at the department level, the department head approves it, and then it comes to the budget manager. And again, it has to have all the appropriate documentation. So if it's over 10,000, it needs to have a board of finance approval, and then it'll go through.
Do you ever, on a related topic, the Munis system, do you have a periodic review of who can approve what at what level? Like quarterly, do you look at a list and say, okay, these are what people have access to Munis, even if it's not just an approval, these are people have access, these are people who log on. Here are the approval levels for this, this, and this, and somebody say, okay, got it. So every quarter you know, like if somebody's left, if somebody was joined, you've got like the most current listing.
We don't do it quarterly. We do it when someone leaves or if someone it comes on. So what was set up prior was the person was set up. You should never set it up to the person. Set it up to the position.
Yeah, no, it should be.
So again, Josh had worked on it, but Ryan had done significant work on that because we went through person by person. In what is their position? Forget what they do. What's their position? So I have a senior accountant. I have an administrator at DPW. I have a DPW director. So we put all the positions in there and then set up roles, and then you attach the roles to the position. So once a person leaves, we take that person out of the system. They get inactivated. So we inactivate them if they're in banking, we inactivate them in Munis, we inactivate them in whatever aspect they have. Then when someone comes on, the department head comes and asks us to set this person up. They need once they have an email address, we need an email address to set them up in Munis. So once they have that, they tell us they are this position. So we go to that role or that position and we put that person's email address attached to it. So we don't do it quarterly because unless the position changes, the access can't be changed. They even took me out, so I can't do anything. So we have super users, which is Ryan, who controls everything. We have an audit report from that to see what he's doing. But I can't go in and just change anyone either. So that's how locked down we have everything.
And presumably somebody can go in and there's some output where you say, show me all the users and all their entitlements, right? You just
Yeah, that's what Ryan and I early last year,
Sure.
he downloaded everything to say, okay, you know, these people have this, should they show them? I'm like, no, take this off, set this up as a role, set this up as a position, and he recreated it.
And do you look at that periodically, even though you're saying you'll change it when somebody leaves, but just in case you get busy and somebody leaves, you totally forget about that. You have a policy where, you know, whether it's quarterly, whether it's semi-annually, whatever, you look through and you think, okay, oh, that guy left.
No, we don't do it on a quarterly basis. It's only when we get the request to inactivate.
Oh, I see, yeah. But how would you know if somebody left?
Because we get the email address of the new person. They can't get into Munis.
Okay.
They can't even get
The new person can't, but if the person leaves, you wanna,
We get notified when an employee.
oh, you would,
Yeah.
so you would act,
HR lets us know when an employee.
they would never forget to act.
They haven't to date. But it's something we can
I mean,
finalize in the purchasing policy. No, it's something we can certainly
I'm not-
finalize.
Well, cause,
Generating
but
HR
no, I mean,
activity
could
involved in
anybody,
that.
I guess the question is, could an inactive employee access Munis from home?
No, once they're inactivated, they can't.
That's
So it has to be here.
Yeah.
They have to.
But you still have to purposely take them off. right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the way I want it is I have a documentation for everything we do.
Mhm.
So that's what we say, okay, HR lets us know, we get a document from HR to say inactivate this person. Now we've inactivated one chain as to why we did it. When we add, it's because someone said this person needs, the department head or HR, depending on who it is, will give us the notification to say this person needs to get on the Munis. And we say, okay, what's their position, what's the role, and then we'll put that person in that position in Munis.
And Munis has a record of, like, if you went back and looked over a year, you could say, on June 3rd, this person left and became deactivated. On June 15th, this person got a new title. It's sort of like an.
We have an audit report, yeah, we have an audit report, and we do run that audit report on different things within finance. We don't do it globally with all the changes, but just in finance to just take a look at what changes. Like I said, we've one super user per se, so you just have to run that audit report to make sure.
And who manages the super user?
It's myself and Diane can look at the super user at any time.
See, because somebody's got to review the super user. right?
Yeah, because you have to have each entity has to have a super user, you
Yeah.
have to have someone who can make those changes.
So I just want to clear understanding for myself. Do we have a running report from day to day of who the users are?
No, we don't run it daily or anything like that, because unless something changes, their access doesn't change. We can run audit reports, but we don't run it daily,
Deal.
because nobody in the field other than my super user can change those items. And they can't change it unless they get a document or an email or something to say what to change. The next procurement transparency and reporting, again, this is, related to having it put into a policy, because they do put it into, they do post them. They post them on our website and they'll put them in a newspaper.
Okay, so it just needs to be documented.
Yeah, a lot of it does need to be documented. And that's what the recommendation is.
Right.
And then certainly the training,
Yes.
so we agree with that. 3, this is the blanket purchase order. This one, basically, the findings were that they don't like the level of how many blanket POs we use.
Right.
So the recommendation was that we should really just keep the blanket POs to like I can't think of the vendor. WP Mason, things like
Office supplies.
Yeah, all the supplies. And then
then.
regular invoices are related to jobs that they're going out to contract for a particular thing they want done. In implementing that's just gonna be a time consuming thing, because my AP person for payments like that was gonna look up every vendor and have pretty much, not every vendor. Jobs where it's a vendor and she sees the PO at $1,000, she's gonna look up to see if that vendor was used by that same department. And they paid $5,000. Well, you pay over the 10 now, you technically have to go for reports last time.
Yeah, so we have that like Theory and Electric. I mean, we use them for like a lot of electric stuff. I mean, they now have they went out and bid to be able to be like the preferred provider.
Yeah, and that's really what we're getting to too. Once we have that, it's.
Yeah, because I
scenario.
actually asked them to do that, because I said, we're just using them, but if we're gonna use somebody for a lot of jobs, I want you to go out. I want you to go out to 6 electricians and say, what can you do for me? Cause you're gonna be my preferred provider. What rate can you give me to be my preferred? And then they brought that to the Board of Selectmen for approval.
Yeah. And that was another one you instituted in terms of like our tree maintenance. They had 5 or 6 vendors.
Right.
But one vendor was getting it more. And it's like, okay, well, you can't do that because you picked all these. So they changed the process of, if this one's not available that you want to give the job to, you have the ability to go to this vendor. And it's a policy now to be able to do that. So that's okay to do. So we could take away the bid process, so it would be even like where they all have $20,000, but they can move within it based on, right.
And they basically have a month. It's almost like they each have a month.
Right.
Each of the tree vendors have a month, so that they're on call.
And it works very well, so that was instituted, but that's something we would formalize in the policies. So we agree with all that, because that was for me, that was one of the tough parts to say, how do I manage this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so we really dealt with that. Current user settings and meet segregation of duties. So the one in particular that the AP supervisor, that was July 23, we found out in July 23 that they had this ability because they were doing it in written form. We stopped it August of 23. I think it was August of 23. We fixed it, and that's what we did the bulk of the changes to the workflow. Yeah, we said, okay, stop the paper, we have to stop all this paper. We need to get workflow in place. So that's already been done. Oh, they said it there in B, they said it's the updated practice, yeah. So that simplified the process so much, getting that workflow and getting the paper away. So we're pretty happy about that. Emergency purchase order not standardized fact. We did agree with this, we do need to formalize that. Our current policy basically says that when they have an emergency, the next day they let us know by email or something that they had an emergency. And then in the next available process to go in front of the board of selectmen when they can.
They come to me for a signature. So if there is a signature
Yeah.
for an emergency, like we've had stuff at the wastewater treatment plant where like generator broke
generator.
down. And it was like $10,000, so that would normally go to the board, and we cannot allow the wastewater treatment plant to go down, so they come to me, get a signature, and then bring it to the board of selectmen at the next meeting.
So I know they had recommended for emergencies, like getting a standardized form.
Yeah.
Is that something that's to be done? It's right.
Oh yeah, no, that would be in one of the packages I got from one of the towns. That's actually in there. It's a very detailed package.
So it would
So everybody can use the same
incorporate it into the
form.
policy.
Yes.
Which would capture all the information.
Yeah, because right now it's just on the PO, when they do it.
Yeah, you wanna know, why is this an emergency? And
Yeah.
when would,
And they put the backup, so usually they put the PO with the backup, what it is, and then they come and talk to
and
you.
I think some of CLA's comments were more, sometimes emergencies are used when the regular system would have worked, like where it really wasn't an emergency.
Sometimes, and we've told the departments multiple times in terms of, from an audit perspective, the auditors will take external audit. External audit will take our POs for the year. And they will take invoices for the year. And they do the work to say, this PO was set up 3 weeks after the invoice.
Well, that's, yes.
So that's where some of it, and CLA did the same practice, and and they were cognizant of that fact. That's what is true.
That's what the PO
Is for, you should, and we do that going, because they're like, wait, your invoice date, and we've been notified, so they've become really good at now doing it the right way, so. We've one department that has a lot of truly the emergencies, that something happens at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And has to get an electrician out, and they've been just emailing me to say, we had this emergency, I expect this, and it goes put it down at the board, depending where it is, so formalize that process for sure. Yeah. Yeah, so we agree with everything with that one. Credit card controls, let's see. Multiple employees use, this is the one where he said we use.
You agree to disagree on this one?
Yeah, we did, because from practicality, well, in production, in what we're doing right now, it's really working so much better than the experience we've had with people.
I get it. I mean, if you gave everybody the, you're chasing after them for their expense reports, right?
We're chasing after expense reports, we're chasing after receipts, we're chasing after budget, because they don't have the budget and they can spend. So they can put in a PO and expend against it, but also put it against P card, and we don't know for a month. And now they're over budget.
And also, I'm waiting that, I mean, still somebody, but at the end of the day, you have those individuals, right? Because the way often it would work, at the end of the day, they're personally liable for it. If when they actually have those cards.
Well,
No, seriously, they don't get.
Being a blood for this.
Why are they on it?
Because you're in corporate and you're used to corporate.
I mean,
yeah,
and put their card, I'd still be personally liable. for it.
Yeah.
yes.
Are you saying for the town, we can't get that, whatever it was,
I don't know how you would actually implement it, but
they have to sign it before they get that card, they have to sign it, a statement with the card, but.
they sign it, but it still goes over budget during the year. So
Yeah.
I get it,
I think that we've reined in a lot of costs.
okay,
I think
I hear
You're
you.
bringing a ton of costs by having better controls.
I'm
We have the receipts, we have everything.
Yeah.
I'm weighing the much better sooner reporting and cost versus the risk that even though you kind of can control the card, somebody could still go out and.
But I don't know
guess
which
we
department
have-
head's given that card
Yeah.
to either, just see what it's like, a department head has that card, he or she
Yeah.
can give it to
And
anyone.
he'd be the one.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know that either, someone could copy that card or assist, I'm not saying they do, I'm just saying. I look at that as, they're kind of the same issue. The department head could give it to their staff member, we give it out, both of them can.
And when you give it out, when somebody signs it out, are they signing it out for like 24 hours or 48 hours?
yes.
Like there's a time on it?
Oh, yeah, we call them, go, when you took the card yesterday, and where is it?
Okay.
We manage those cards really tightly. Yeah, and there's only certain employees in, like myself, Diane, and myself, the comptroller, and the senior accountant.
I don't have one.
Yeah, are the only ones that actually sign those, are the only 3 people that will sign those cards out to people.
Oh, okay.
It's not like everyone in finance could do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or people in other departments.
No.
Oh,
It all has to come to finance.
It has to come to finance for us to let that person.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, no, someone
Other
can come to
people.
get it, they can get it, but they can only get it from myself, the comptroller, and the senior accountant. Let's see, that is the same with the that's the recommendation. Vendor management practices could be improved, vendor cleanup file, that's what I said, I have this person that's doing it, yeah, it's definitely in process and it does need to be done, it was the first thing, like, it was 2 years ago when we did a download of our vendors to see. The reason we came up was when we were doing, actually it was 2023, we moved to ACH. And we said, how many vendors do we need to mail? So we were gonna do a bulk mailing, let's say, here's the ACH form, sign up for it, and we're like, this is way too many. I said, okay, let's look at the last 3 years of the vendors and put it in with their checks as they get checks. And then let's start cutting everyone off that's inactive, so that's definitely a work in progress.
Is there a way for the software to do that automatically?
No,
No,
there is not, no.
so we cannot, can you improve the software to do that automatically?
The request in that if there's enough users throughout the country that would put in for it, I could put that request in, yeah, for an enhancement. And that could be an enhancement they do down the road, so I could I put that as an, that's a good point to put into them.
Because if it was automated, that would make it much.
Yes. When it says it's not kept in file, what we've been doing is on the W-9, the person handling it will write on the W-9 what they did. So they call the state where it's incorporated, they call vendor, they'll, certainly if we do ACH changes, they call the vendor. And they don't call the number that the vendor gives us.
Right.
We go to the department and say, do you have a different number than this one? Or they'll look the vendor up online
Yeah.
to find them, to see if that number even matches what we had.
Because this is really an area where there's a lot of fraud.
Yes,
Yes,
So this is sort of the one of the key controls that has to be there is that when you set up a new vendor, it's, or even change a vendor.
oh, that's what's gonna get to.
It's gotta be, you gotta do 2 or 3 different.
agreed. No,
Yeah.
that was when we were setting ACH up, that was the major concern because
Back in.
when I was in a different town, when we were looking at cybersecurity for that type of thing, because they don't like to cover a lot, and Connecticut got hit a lot the last couple of years. Well, one town was over $2 million, and it ended up somewhere in China, they recovered 900,000. They got in through an AC unit. Somehow, whatever they got was through a digital AC unit to get into the system in the town, to get into the AP system, to manipulate and change a vendor record. They actually changed the vendor record themselves. So there's all, it's the wash.
And we're firewall as well as a whole lot.
That's it, thank you, I couldn't think of the word.
But
We've got.
And that's what Chris,
Chris,
IT and.
But it's more than just a firewall, then you need somebody, if you get a request saying, you know what, our address has changed, or
Yeah.
our
Yes.
bank account has changed. You can't just take that email, you gotta go back and talk to somebody different at that organization
Yes.
where you independently verify the phone number of the person you're calling is not the number on the email. It's something.
And that's why
and then-
the accounts payable person, the
Yeah.
supervisor, is not allowed to make those changes.
So who can go into the system and make the vendor changes?
The vendor changes can be the comptroller,
Right,
and we have what we call a floater, a person who is our vendor person.
okay,
they can make the changes.
And it only requires one person to make the vendor change, if someone can make it, then someone else sign off.
No, it's, there's no option for enter approval, it's one person.
Okay.
So the documentation goes in, they do all the,
Oh, so the Munis system doesn't allow a
not to
secondary.
secondary, no.
But there's a history, presumably there's a history of when those changes are made in the system.
Oh, yeah,
And
oh,
who
yeah,
makes it?
and an audit, yeah, and, there's
Does
only
anybody
two
review
people that,
that? Does anybody,
they haven't reviewed it in probably, I would say, a year in terms of
I'm
that.
just wondering whether you should, and not,
Yeah.
not pretending anybody would do this, but.
No, but you never know.
Controls report is if the person that does it, whatever level the people that you just said. Cause they could change it to that.
Yeah,
Right, so you want somebody else looking at that.
Even if it's not in the system, right?
Right.
It should go to you or somebody.
So, I mean, you want
Yeah,
to check
no.
on the vendor, that the request isn't coming from the vendor and it's fraudulent, but you also want to check on the employee who's making the change.
Yep.
That it's not self-serve.
Yeah, and I thought one of their recommendations was, I'm looking down at 7.3 in the whole, just confirming the legitimacy and the change process are not formally documented, so build it in, so enhance the policies for that sort of thing, so exactly what we're
It's
talking
written,
about.
yeah, we literally don't have it, that's. the
So that'll be
only
an
format of
addition.
it.
Yeah.
Yep, no, agreed on that, because that is an area of. I mean, we also have the issue, which thankfully our bank has been stopping it, we've had 3, I would say, in the last 2 years, what's the word, whitewashing?
Whitewashing, if
They tried to take one of our checks to
Yeah.
$4,000 and put it to $40,000.
Yeah.
And we implemented positive pay, we implemented reverse ACH blockers, we implemented, I'm trying to think of some of the elements we did. So that someone can't go in and pull the money out, they have to get approval from us. If we haven't sent them a file, it doesn't happen.
Right.
So we upload the ACH, we upload the positive pay file, we upload the IP addresses of payments that come into our bank. So if we have a vendor who pays us money but also pulls out for their fee, which we do have, we have to whitelist them on the bank. It won't happen if we don't give them the IP address of that vendor will never be able to get paid, nor will we get our money. But we went through that. We went through that a year and a half ago, and we just went through it again probably like 6 months ago to make sure everything's in place. So, but yeah, someone did try to whitewash our checks.
That happens to everybody. Huh?
Yeah, yep. So agree with the improved vendor management process and update that form. That's it.
So you don't, on the whole, like, the vendor changes and processes and checklists and all that, you think that would be embedded in part of the 5 different policies you've got? You don't need any separate support on that piece of it?
I would put it all in the same policy.
Okay, but you think one of the ones you've already got as a model could be
Oh,
incorporated?
if you saw some of these policies,
You don't want to see it?
like I said, they have covered everything and
Okay.
anything you could think of
Alright.
in all forms with it. So, see. Oh, there was a question, but where was it on finding? There was, because we made a comment in terms of our vendor payment terms.
Yeah, I
Where
thought
was it?
that
Where was that
cleaned
line?
up or
Is
something.
it 3 management comments vendors are generally paid according to invoice terms?
Yeah, and we
With
made
the
the comment
exception.
against 3, maintain some records, document update.
Right, payments will be clarified in the updated purchasing policy, I think that's.
Oh, that would be, yeah, because
Yeah,
they were understanding that we paid everybody under 30 days. We don't. So we pay everything based on their terms that come in. There are some at 30 days, but we truly don't pay our vendors 30 days because we pull a week in advance. Because that person's hitting 30 days next week and they're not gonna hit. So we cut checks on a Thursday, the day 30 is Friday, they're gonna be late on our payments to them. So we pull that into the week before. So they get their check if they're within 30 days. Utilities, any of our utilities are immediate because we don't want any of those fees.
They all have finance charges attached to them.
Exactly, that's the big, yeah, and if you miss 1 month and then just try and research that back. So
But
utilities.
some vendors won't attach finance charges, do you ever string those out more than 30 days?
We don't string them out more than 30 days. We, just so you know, we use.
I got a lot of complaints about some local vendors not getting paid timely, so we pay people timely.
We do.
I'm not interested in,
Well, and you don't
And
have a
I think-
receivables problem either.
I know.
And there wasn't.
Yeah.
There, I would say 5 or 6 years ago, we paid every single vendor every single time. So they were getting paid well in advance. And it wasn't the appropriate way to do it. We should put the terms in there and do it the right way.
How often do you do short pays? Like you get an invoice in and there may be, I don't wanna call it a dispute, but maybe 12% of the invoice, you may not agree with what the vendor said, so you'll pay them like 88%. Do you have short pays at all? Never?
So if what the departments might try and cross it off and pay something, we say, if it needs to be adjusted,
You can't amend it,
we need a
reissue.
revised invoice, or we need a credit memo that matches to that invoice.
Right.
We're not, what I've told them is you are not to doctor the invoice down or up or whatever.
Right.
We need the invoices, what's been issued by the vendor for us and signed off by the department. So we don't get it that often, but we will kick it back going, the vendor's saying 2,500, you're saying either $3,000 or you're saying 1,500. You need to give us a corrected invoice or a credit memo. And sometimes we do get the credit memo.
Yeah, there'll be times where it may take some time to square off like the remaining 12%. Everybody agrees on it, but it might take weeks or months to figure out, who's right in the last.
Whenever we pay what is documented on the invoice and signed off by the department head from the vendor. If it's anything different, the vendor has to change it.
Right.
Enterprise, so this, let's see. So this was, procurement capabilities could be maximized. The first one, we changed this well over before the audit, to get rid of paper and put the budget in the workflow in Enos. So this was already done. Number 2 was already done because that was on paper. We changed that.
This is 8B you're talking about?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
8A, A 1 and 2.
And you didn't, on 3, you said you didn't want them to code invoices because it was gonna be
We
weird.
don't, because
People will do it to the wrong GL account.
if they don't have enough money in this account, they'll charge, toilet paper to road maintenance. I'm not saying they do it, so we do a lot where we come back going, that's not an appropriate expense there, or like someone's buying a vehicle and they're a little bit short, to put it to vehicle supplies, like, no, you need to put it into the vehicle line and do a credit transfer. So we do monitor that, we monitor project codes, because capital projects are authorized, so this particular project is for this purchase, so a vehicle, and you might have 14,000 left, they got it for cheaper from a different town, or someone else bid it and they went off that bid and they got it for cheaper and they 14,000 left. They're like, well, I'm gonna buy supplies. No, you can't buy supplies. So we do look at everything that, especially projects, to say what can be spent. So I think giving that control back to the departments to pay it, I don't think it's a good process for us. I think we need to keep the AP process centralized.
This is a bit of a off topic, but in terms of the budgeting, are you pretty harmonized for all the different departments in terms of like the cost centers, so that everybody, they say this expense for the budget is this cost center, but somebody else has a different interpretation? And do you have to chase people to harmonize and make sure they're all consistent across the board, or?
That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
We had that where everybody would charge things differently, different accounts. In the past 2 years, Josh last year and Ryan this year, have made significant changes, and you'll see it in the budget. You'll see a line that shows savings of 50,000, software going to like an outside contractor. It is an outside contractor, but it really is software. So we had everybody move it, or Ryan moved it for everyone down to software. And the reason that's important, it's 2 reasons. One, make sure everybody's consistent in what they're buying and what accounts they're buying it from. But 2, we have what's called the Uniform Chart of Accounts up at the state.
That's what
The UCOA, and we have to file that every year. So every year we've been enhancing that process. It's this year was a really big.
Mine did a ton. You can just see it in the budget.
You can see the budget.
Transfers
Yeah.
from
In
old
and out.
accounts to new accounts.
So that's been very successful. We see it when we're doing our UCOA, yeah. Contracts module, like I said, it's not really a finding because we pointed it out, that's what we brought in. And most of the towns. The DBA fields, we do use the DBA field, so I'm not sure why that was in there, but we do use the doing business as. Dashboards is really not a function of procurement capabilities, but Ryan did a training on this of how people can set up how to look for their approvals, how to look to find reports, not just purchasing, but just their dashboard. He did a whole training on that on dashboards, when he did some training on that one. So the automatic tracking and reporting, this is something finance cannot control. So they have the ability to go in, run their POs, run their year-to-date budget reports, run their outstanding POs. Some departments like to keep Excel spreadsheets. So we have said, if it's up to them, but we can't control that process if they're doing Excel spreadsheets. And I would actually, I'll step back to say, that was probably because it was a paper-based thing before.
Yeah, it was
So they
hard
can
to
see
get
what's in there.
information.
Excuse me, now they can see it quite a bit, because it's in the work, and they can control it. So, recommendation was the training, which, like I said, Ryan has done a phenomenal job recording the training, so whether someone has the time or not, when they're new and they're getting into everything, that's something they could sit and every day do another section of actually, because it's.
Is it something you ever monitor that you have new employees or even existing employees that do go in and watch, because we're saying this in the Board of Ed one, like, usually the people that don't bother to do it are the ones that most need to do it. So if you required it.
Well, and I said to Anne
Yeah.
after the last meeting, as I said in the last one, I said, I get it, there's some pushback on some training, and so, I said, if we need people to be trained, I'm happy to make it mandatory, like that,
I mean, they do that in.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's all around, it's something more efficient for us, because it cuts down questions
Yeah.
and the filtration and,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, it should be mandatory.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Yeah.
So everything's consistent.
And it's, once you understand, like, we've had a couple of people that once they went through Ryan's training and they were like, oh, they had this, fear of it, and it's not that, it's very concise once you realize how you have to do it. And they're locked down into what they can see. So I think they were more intimidated versus the way it was.
Right.
To now, to the way we have it.
And they may not
to
see some of the features of the system that would actually make their job more efficient.
Yeah, some of them brought some had saved because you can save on your dashboard your most utilized modules, like
Right.
accounting grid or RETs. They had saved them that because we did an upgrade of the system 2 years ago, we did tell, here's the upgrade, they didn't change their saved. So they were still going back into the old version, and they're like, well, no, you can go to modified invoice and see everything now. Or you can go here and it'll do, same with our process, we used to have to go into one field, approve the PO, and then we have to go into another to print it so that it would go to the department. Well, now with the upgrade, we're in a different version, we can just go into one place and I have the person make sure they updated their instructions on how to do that. So yeah, so the training, it is formalized now, like I said, we have actual manuals, but when we change
They
it,
required them.
yeah.
Covered it off, right? Okay.
is that like annual?
Yeah, I would say, it depends what training you're gonna do. You set up your training schedule and then you figure out who's supposed to do what training.
Right.
And then you do a checklist. Did that person do it? You get them to either sign off if it's online or if you take attendance at the.
It'd be interesting to see if there's some that because like for our systems, there's systems training that comes through. Is there anything that
That Munis does?
could do that would automatically come and then you get a reminder, like, you didn't do your training,
Yeah.
I don't know if Munis has anything like that.
That would be a great
That
question.
would be good.
Yeah.
Almost definitely have that for everything. It has to, you've done that. You tickler emails all the time.
Well, at least for new employees,
Yeah.
Yes,
it should be mandatory that they have to do it. They have to sign off on it.
and
They
there, and
can't
maybe
use the
there's something
system
to
unless they
show
do
that
it.
it's done, yeah.
Yeah.
No, agree.
So the finance implemented a 6-week community training for September. So what What does that mean exactly? I'm looking at.
So that's where Ryan went through every aspect from the very beginning
Right.
to the very end, including budget transfers. And he recorded it and he wrote up a manual for every single one.
Okay.
So, and they put it out in the intranet for the employees, so if someone needed a refresher or, and that's something we can say every year. We either, well, not either, we would update that if we changed anything here. And do a manual training again to update the video if the process changed.
Yeah, I mean, any change to the systems or processes, definitely everyone's gotta get an update on it, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was sort of the amount of time it took for him to pull this together and then push it out to people. It's not like people went to a 6-week offsite.
No, we did a kickoff 2 years ago, I think it was under you and you approved it, we actually had Tyler do the training at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, Tyler had it here, they went through the process, again, a lot of people didn't show up, but we said, okay, we're gonna get the experts to do it. But we're very fortunate that Ryan is a Tyler expert. So he was able to do that for us, so we didn't have to look at
And
that.
he's very patient.
Yes,
That's not good.
oh, very, yeah.
Very patient.
When you see any, I know we always have to worry about resource costs, but would there be any value in your mind? You see Tyler coming in and, next year, or just to do a refresher, or you feel certain people can kind of teach everybody here already?
I think Ryan is the perfect team.
Okay,
Like Deanna said, with the patients, and everyone had their questions, he addressed them all, he followed up on them.
Yeah.
Because they're all their little nuances on what affects them, and he got them all centralized on looking at things and looking at the same. So his questions and AP's questions have come down.
Yeah, I think it's just everybody's at a very different level.
Yeah.
And, those kind of trainings, if you're the person that can sit in the corner and not ask a question, you didn't really get a shot at it. Versus Ryan's doing one-on-one or two-on-one trainings, going to each department.
okay, but what if they have like a major systems upgrade, right? And how do you proselytize and get people up to, does someone like a Ryan get the update from Tyler and he would go out, or would you?
He,
bring Tyler
yeah,
as a
no,
major-
Ryan would do it, so when we go to do any upgrades on it, he would get a notification on what new updates are in that
Right.
process, and then look through them to say, okay, who's affecting what? If it's
Okay.
AP purchasing, he'll go through and say, okay, now we have to let people know. We haven't had that though, since our system sunsetted in 23, we had to migrate, we didn't have a choice. So that was like 5 or 6 versions. That was so huge. That's why we had time to in,
Yeah,
because it was so big of a change. We haven't had to, small updates, but nothing that would affect any departments, just behind the scenes. But we get notifications probably every other week they go in and they do Tyler looks at us and looks to make sure everything's in sync and nothing's out of balance, because sometimes there's, at the end of the year, your encumbrances could be off from a cinch. They go in and make sure everything is I forget the word they use, but we get that notification, they run our system every 2 weeks to take a look at it.
In mind, it's kind of talking about some of the same things,
Oh, the training.
Yeah.
but it just sounds like that needs to be a little, sounds like in the process of
Formalized.
Yeah,
formalizing,
formalized
but it
training
needs
on it,
maybe a little bit more just to make it required.
okay, so your comment, formalized mandatory training would require HR involvement.
Just from
Yeah.
forcing them to do it, or, it could be whatever the department is,
Yeah.
but.
Or-
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
The
Yeah.
difference is, yeah,
Yeah.
because we already on so that meeting and,
Yeah.
we definitely, I mean, I have to, for the departments did it for the same way for so long. And in the past 4 years or less, they've seen a lot of changes and they've been receptive. Some of them have been slow to get there, but they have been very receptive to get on here, get the workflow, get rid of the paper, depend on the records, what they said, and embrace what the system can do. So now it's to the point of, we'll get the call going, I just approved it. You haven't approved it yet. I'm like, we just got it, So it's, we're happy they're on top of it, but they've been very good in getting to that level.
Great, okay. I think we've now covered off one of those, you guys said questions, we jump to agenda item 2.
Oh, which is next step,
Yeah.
okay, I'll save mine for you.
Any of your other one? No. Okay. So item two, discussion determination of next steps, and I was gonna throw out, I haven't shared this with my committee members, but, you know. We had this discussion with schools, and then this committee here needs to sort of do a report out to the board. And we were targeting we don't have it on the calendar yet, it's sometime available, right? And so we got a couple of choices, one would be, because of different schedules, I don't know if we'll be able to have another subcommittee. One would be to have Ann or the town present like their view on some of the timing, right?
Yeah, I think.
In mid-April, or could we get through something?
I think the next step, what I would like to see is we've got all of your reactions, we've talked about all the things. Now we just need you to come back and say, okay, here's my timetable of when these things will be done.
Okay,
So, by item number that was in the CLA report, what's your time frame, whatever the date is.
okay.
So that and then maybe makes sense to have a checklist. So we can see periodically, you can report to us periodically based on that timeline where you are.
Definitely, yeah, no, and I think having a policy procedure will knock a lot of that off right away.
Yeah.
So that's something we can definitely
So that's probably, and maybe could you have that for the audit?
Well, that's what I was going for, that.
That
would be
probably makes,
two birds with one
just,
stone.
not to have it done, but to have a timeline.
Yes, definitely, for what did you for
It
which
should be in the middle, we haven't figured it out yet.
for your next audit meeting to have.
Alright, that-
Which will probably be some,
The week of the 13th.
13th.
Okay, we waited, I'll have.
And the final budget, but is the 14th.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know.
Yeah, one copy of it.
I just said,
Yeah.
Alright, how about
We're
30,
just
how about the
17.
17th?
How about 7, sure, is that easier?
Yeah.
8:30.
Thank you, no, appreciate that.
in addition to that,
See, that was like, no.
Thank you, and I thought about conceptual plumbing authorization. So.
Yeah.
and if you need outside resources to help you,
Yeah.
you
You could bring it
No,
up.
I definitely will bring it
at
in.
that time.
Diane Wilson, who does that, is phenomenal in terms of policy procedures, written work. She's really very good with that as well. So I have an in-house resource with looking at what we have and editing it and stuff. So
Alright, so I guess then, we'll look to the full committee meeting where we'll have sort of a report out, and you'll also be able to sort of present your kind of like timeline, et cetera, for these different things. I think a little bit more about what Tony just said. I appreciate the fact that you want to kind of attack it all sort of internally, but to the extent you need any outside help,
I
that
definitely.
it makes sense to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, not for me. No, that's great. Thank you so much, Ann.
Thank you.
Right, so I have no other business, motion to close the meeting. Motion seconded, alright, all in favor? Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.